I don't just talk about other people's stuff, I also make my own. Books in particular. To date, I have 4 books you can check out on Amazon. Operation Red Dragon: The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City, and the short story collection Assorted Absurdities, Tales of Kaiju Punk and Other Genres. Hop on down to the description for Amazon links to all 4 books. Enjoy whichever ones you read, and enjoy the video.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Omni viewer, and I know I am late in getting to this. I may very well be the last person to make a new video that announces it. But it seems to be that every time there's something important that happens that I need to get on top of, I have some sort of technology issue that needs resolving that sets me back a little bit. I don't need to bore you with the details. The point is, I'm back now, and with the issues resolved, I can share my thoughts on a new announcement straight from Toho on Godzilla Day, that there is a new Godzilla movie coming out next year. This is the logo for it, and that's about all we actually know at this point. A lot of people have thought that because this logo looks kind of zero-shaped, even though it's meant to be a G, that the film will be called Godzilla Zero. That's only a rumored title. At this point, I do not believe it is the official title. But we do know that it's at least what people will be calling it for the foreseeable future. Sort of like Godzilla King of Monsters, before they added the back in. We also know it will be directed by Takashi Yamazaki, who is a self-professed Godzilla fan who actually incorporated Godzilla into his film It's Always Sunset on 3rd Street 2, and also was the director for sequences on Godzilla the Ride. And the last little bit of information we have is that it will apparently be set in post-war Japan, most likely the 1940s, based on what everyone is saying. So that raises questions of whether or not it's going to be a full-blown reboot, or if it's going to be a prequel to the 1954 Godzilla, or what. We just don't know at this point. According to Gormaru Island, however, the movie has actually already been filmed. They're just in post-production now. They'll probably do reshoots as needed, and now, of course, they're working on the editing, the special effects, all the other stuff that will make it into a complete movie. And that, in and of itself, is the news, as it were. New Godzilla movie, set in the past. We don't know if it's going to be a prequel or the start of something new. We don't know if this is the world of Godzilla that Toho announced a few years ago. We don't know who's going to be in it. Yeah, there are a lot of question marks at this point. And of course, it's got the internet talking, because it's going to release apparently just a couple of months before Godzilla vs. Kong 2, whatever that winds up being called. Now, what I find especially interesting is that for a while now, people have been saying that they wanted Legendary to lose the license to Godzilla and the MonsterVerse so that Toho could go back to keep making Godzilla movies, even though it was never stated that Toho couldn't make Godzilla movies. In fact, the whole reason Shin Godzilla was made between 2014 and 2019, as well as the Polygon films, was because there was nothing in the contract they had with Legendary and Warner Brothers that precluded them from making those movies. It seemed like a lot of people forgot that little detail, while also insisting that the license was definitely, absolutely going to expire in 2020, or at least after whenever Godzilla vs. Kong got released. If it got released, they might have just shelved it permanently. Anyway, I don't want to spiral into any of that stuff. Point is, new Toho Godzilla movie that's going to coexist with the American movies. So apparently, they're going to do what I figured they'd be doing for a while now. They're going to basically be alternating. Toho will make a Godzilla movie, Legendary and Warner Brothers will make a Godzilla movie. Assuming Legendary still stays with Warner Brothers, you may recall that's still up in the air, but nothing has actually happened as far as I've seen yet. I think that's a good strategy. You have the Japanese stuff and you have the American stuff coexisting. You get the best of both worlds as a Godzilla fan. Well, hopefully, so long as both of those series remain watchable. And that's where I get into the speculation and commentary portion of the video. I'm done with the news portion now. Time to actually share my thoughts on it. You know, the funny thing is, I actually saw the announcement happen live, but again, because of the camera issues, I wasn't able to actually report on it. But maybe that's a good thing, because now I'm able to actually have all the information that is available. But I've already reported that. The big question that's been lingering in my mind ever since this announcement was made is whose movie this is going to be. Will it be Yamazaki's movie, or will it be Toho's movie? A lot of people are really excited that Yamazaki is making this film because he's a self-professed Godzilla fan, and if you've seen footage from what happens on Godzilla the Ride, you know that he's really good at directing those shots. He has the kaiju being really expressive and doing a lot of action. They're not the super stiff kaiju that you would see in the likes of Shin Godzilla or the Polygon trilogy, is what I'm saying. And even that cameo for It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, or whatever that other film was, which is technically not a kaiju film, still had a Godzilla in it that left an impact. A lot of people remember what that Godzilla is like. So people are looking at this and thinking, yes, he is the perfect choice to make a new Godzilla movie. But let us not forget, he's still making this movie for Toho. And Toho has made it very clear over the last few years that the only Godzilla they are interested in is Shin Godzilla. Think about that list of rules that Toho released about what Godzilla does and does not do, some of which flew right in the face of what the series has presented us with through the years. Think of how Adam Wingard said he had to constantly cheat around the stipulation that Godzilla never emote or be expressive in any way. And I think he was able to get away with it because, he was working everywhere except Japan. So if there are any micromanagers on the Toho staff, they couldn't exactly do it that easily with this movie. But for a homegrown movie made in their studio in Japan, that would be a little bit easier. Again, if there are micromanagers. And they've made it very clear, all they want is Shin Godzilla. Ever since Shin Godzilla did gangbusters, that's the version of Godzilla they want to carry forward. That's why the Polygon Godzilla was so stiff and immobile and emotionless. And the same for Godzilla Ultima, in Singular Point. The Polygon trilogy actually applied that rule to every monster that they bothered to put in there, and I think demonstrated beyond the shadow of a doubt that having every monster be that emotionless and unexpressive and stiff and immobile is not something that can sustain a long-term series. With Singular Point, they dialed it back a bit and allowed other monsters to be expressive, but they held fast to it with Godzilla. Toho was pretty clear they wanted Godzilla to be emotionless, very much like Shin, even to the point where they insisted that he had to evolve, which led to them taking creatures that were clearly meant to be Titanosaurus and Varan and just turning them into Godzilla variation on a theme, which I still think is insulting, but that's a whole other video. Anyway, point is, when they did that, Godzilla ultimately became the least interesting monster in the whole series, and it was technically his series. And yes, there is stuff like Godzilla the Ride, or the Shin Godzilla versus Evangelion thing that used the Shin Godzilla model, but supposedly, from what I've heard, had it be closer, at least, to how a classic Godzilla might act. But you got to think those are theme park attractions. They're not necessarily going to accurately reflect something from the studio. I mean, if you've ever been to a theme park and you've gone to a movie-based attraction, you know what I'm talking about. At the same time, though, I would like to think the Toho execs have been paying attention. That they would look at stuff like how Godzilla vs. Kong was received, and how fans have reacted to the short films they've been releasing, like Godzilla vs. Gigan Rex, which I will get to in a different video. And seeing how those monsters are more expressive, far more interesting to watch, and how, Well, the Polygon trilogy, as mentioned, was a dud. And I have to wonder how Singular Point is doing too. I'm starting to think it might not have been that well received because there hasn't been any announcement of that second season that was supposedly being set up that would totally justify that ridiculous ending. But anyway, not spiraling, staying on target. And they're bringing in a guy who has directed an expressive Godzilla before. So, which one is it going to be? That's the question I've still got running through my mind. I'd like to believe this is going to be a fresh start. At this point, I'd like to think they had their fun with the I can barely move Godzilla and figured out that it only worked once, and even then I don't think it worked, but that's beside the point. And now they're ready to actually allow filmmakers to do with Godzilla what they've always done with Godzilla. Reinterpret. So, only time will tell, I guess. We're gonna be getting it relatively soon, like about a year from now. We'll probably get a trailer before then, as I'm expecting, but I don't know. Like I said, I'd like to think that this is gonna be something fresh, something new, but it's still Toho, modern Toho specifically. So I am tempering my expectations at the moment. We will see. That is all I can say at this point. We will see. Otherwise, I'll keep my eyes open. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer signing off.
Congratulations, you reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, you might want to consider supporting us on Patreon. Of course, the other way to support us is to go to Amazon and check out our books, Operation Red Dragon, The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, The Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City, and Assorted Absurdities, Tales of Kaiju Punk and Other Genres. Also check the description for links to DeviantArt and other platforms we operate. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.